Ubisoft is working on two Far Cry games right now. The first one is MMO, the second is a single-player seventh part of the main series codenamed Project Blackbird. There have been various speculations about, ranging from it being a narrative-driven game to a looter-shooter cooperative. I must give respect to the devs. They are not stagnant in terms of trying all new things and sometimes disappointing us. However, the issue lies in the fact that experiments like Far Cry's are quite rare. Creating a DLC with the 80s neon vibes and even a prehistoric game with a strong focus on animal interactions did yield some interesting results, but when it comes to roguelike looter shooters and a focus on realism, the appeal remains largely theoretical, and the quality of Far Cry 7 is like Schrodinger's cat. We won't know if it's any good or a dead-end project until we open the box and see what the game is really like. Journalist Tom Henderson revealed dozens interesting details regarding the seventh part. According to him, Far Cry 7 starts with an attack on the protagonist's family by a group called the Sons of Truth. They abduct our relatives because they're very wealthy and influential. Game will feature a non-linear story based around the kidnapping of the family. Our mission is to rescue all, but here's the strange twist. We have a 72 in-game hours equating to 24 hours in real time to save them. The non-linear storyline allows you to save family members in the order and way you choose. It's possible that you won't be able to save everyone, and I can't definitively say whether this system is good or bad because it depends on factors we don't know yet. As for me, I'm not particularly fond of games with time limits. My first experience with such a game was the first Fallout. This limited my exploration and made me rush through the game, focusing only on the main quests and finding NPCs who could bring water and food to the shelter to extend the time. Only when I was free from the burden of searching for the chip could I relax and play the game properly. I loved the first Fallout, but this time-limited experience didn't sit well with me. In Far Cry 7, it seems like you'll always have a ticking timer. The game may allow you to freeze time in specific locations, but how else you can manipulate the whole time remains uncertain. I wouldn't be surprised if Ubisoft sells some XP boosters for real money. In fact, they've been selling level boosters for years since Assassin's Creed Unity, which increases your experience gain for the next 12 hours, for example. In Far Cry 7, these could be incredibly useful, speeding up your progress and family rescue. Some people might be excited about this, saying they can finish the game in 24 hours, but that's not accurate. We were told we have 24 hours to save our family, but Ubisoft is likely to stretch it using various mechanics. The idea is that if you die, you start all over again, so this is not a 24-hour game. It will take tens or even hundreds of hours to complete it fully, in my opinion. I'm not against experiments themselves, but something like a timer would be better suited for a DLC, not a full-fledged game, but who knows, maybe Ubisoft will surprise us. Please let me know what you think about the timer idea. I genuinely want to understand if people need this or if I'm just worrying for no reason. Also, it might even give you a perk that allows you to save all the weapons you bought in previous plays. You'll have to walk through multiple times to save all family members and eliminate all the Sons of Truth. Which specific path you'll take and how you'll balance it will depend on you. The game also introduces a new interrogation system, which I hope will resemble what we had in Splinter Cell Blacklist. During interrogations, enemies can lie to mislead protagonists, sending us down the wrong way and wasting our limited time. You'll only become aware of these deceptions during your second attempt. We'll wait how well Ubisoft execute the concept, but I have many concerns. I don't know about you, but I just want a solid single-player game with good storyline. I want a great, large, and interesting experience with cool missions without the infinity grind and other cringeworthy elements. Of course, new Far Cry should have unique mechanics. There has been information that it would be crafted on a new engine. Some even speculated it might be Unreal Engine 5, considering that many studios are transitioning to it, but no. However, I believe that the Dunya engine, which has always been used in the Far Cry series, should still be the most appropriate choice. It has a well-established concept that has worked for any part in the franchise. But now it seems like they are venturing into experiments and attempts to change things which could lead to various consequences. In this instance, Far Cry is moving away from the tried and true Dunya to the Snowdrop, which was used for the Division dilogy. While Snowdrop is a good engine in its own right, I don't think it's a suitable choice for first-person games. That could be a mistake, and it may even affect the upcoming Avatar, which is also on Snowdrop. Just recall X-Defiant, which is another Ubisoft project with Snowdrop engine. Now think about the kind of gunplay one can expect in Far Cry. The whole Far Cry series is fundamentally different and can't be approached with the same shooting intriguing mechanics. It incorporates a lot of arcade elements and certain conventions. While it's true that if you're developing a free-to-play game, almost any engine would do the job, but Far Cry 7 is a full-fledged AAA project, so choosing the right engine is crucial in this context. It became known that Far Cry 7 will offer a diverse range of multiplayer modes, making the game more varied than previous parts. Although the third game did have both multiplayer and co-op, they were relatively basic compared to titles like Call of Duty or Battlefield, and Far Cry didn't quite measure up. In the next part, a 4-player cooperative is set to return, surpassing the previous limits of 2-player. This mode could potentially allow players to complete the story campaign together, suggesting that it won't be entirely separate from the main game. While this concept might raise questions about how such cooperative mechanics can be seamlessly integrated into the game's narrative, it's not necessarily as nonsensical as it may seem. It seems to be inspired by Ghost Recon series, where a group of players must collab to survive and gather various loots, but still I perceive this information as nonsense, because then how can such mechanics be integrated into the story itself, where the protagonist must manage to save his family? Devs have increasingly been finding innovative ways to merge multiplayer elements with compelling storytelling. This approach can enhance immersion and create unique experiences for players. The idea of saving the protagonist's family could still be a central theme, even within a cooperative framework. Incorporating cooperative play into the story can be achieved by giving each player a role within the narrative. Working together would be essential to overcome the challenges presented in the game, which may include protecting the family or completing objectives that directly impact the story. Additionally, Ubisoft can introduce co-op missions or side quests that are relevant to the main story, offering players opportunities to progress in the narrative while playing together. This approach would allow for both a rich single-player experience and an engaging multiplayer mode that doesn't undermine the core storyline. It's possible that Far Cry 7 will find a way to merge these elements effectively, providing players with a fresh and immersive gaming experience that stays true to the series' roots while offering exciting new multiplayer possibilities. Apart from rumored co-op mode, there's speculation about the introduction of a full-fledged multiplayer in Far Cry series. For this purpose, Ubisoft is developing a separate game with working title Project Maverick. This suggests the possibility that Project Maverick could be a separate that complements Far Cry 7 but is distributed independently. This approach is similar to The Last of Us factions or the separate purchase options for the story and multiplayer modes in GTA 5. That allows developers to focus on delivering a highly polished and dedicated multiplayer experience while keeping the main game's single-player narrative intact. These are mere theories and speculations. Indeed, the idea of introducing a full-fledged multiplayer experience in the Far Cry series through a separate project is an interesting development. By doing so, players who enjoy the core single-player experience of Far Cry 7 can still have a complete and immersive story-driven game, while those who are more interested in the competitive or cooperative aspects can dive into the multiplayer game separately. This separation also allows for more flexibility in terms of content, updates, and monetization for the multiplayer component. Of course, the success of such an approach would depend on the execution and how well the two games can complement each other. If Project Maverick is indeed in development as a Far Cry multiplayer title, it will be interesting to see how Ubisoft integrates and markets these two games to provide a cohesive and compelling experience for players. Until official information is released, these remain intriguing speculations for Far Cry fans to ponder. Subscribe